guys, it's Jules here with True Crime Reactions. Let's talk about the newest footage that just released, and this is actually going to be one of my biggest speculation type videos because I kind of have a theory that goes along with some of the stuff that we know to be factual as of yet when it comes to what we are learning from this new footage, and I want to talk about it. In this footage, Kaylee says, "Maddie, what did you tell Adam?" And Maddie's response to Kaylee is, "I told Adam everything."
What did you say to Adam? I told Adam.
Okay, now what we have learned since this release from all of the sleuthiness on YouTube is that the Adam that is allegedly being spoken about here is not only a bartender at the Corner Club, which we very much know that Maddie and Kaylee were at that night, and by the way, that is Hoodie Guy from the food truck video that you see in this footage with them. And he was apparently, from rumor, also at the Corner Club that night. Now, the rest of the rumor is that he got kicked out of the club. I don't know if the club has verified that yet, but that's the rumor. So it could be that when he got kicked out, if he got kicked out, that the girls left with him, and that's whenever they headed over to the food truck. I think that might be around the time that this is. I don't believe that they've given us a time yet. I could be wrong, and if I am, please leave it in the comments of when this footage was. All the news sources are just stating hours before, what ends up happening. But technically, with their window, it was technically hours prior at the food truck. So I don't know if this is before or after Corner Club, but we know the girls took a ride share from their house to the Corner Club. So I doubt we would have seen them walking prior. So it's got to be, Anyway, so not only is this Adam person allegedly the bartender at the club that we already know, all three of these people in this video were at that night, but this bartender Adam is also the roommate of Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, Jack D. Now, this is how my speculation of all this is going to come to everything, but I don't know if it has anything to do with what ended up happening that night or if it's just coincidence. But before we get into that, I want to play Kaylee's father's responses to this new footage because apparently it's not new to them, which is a good thing because the family deserves to know as much as they possibly can know, and we, whenever. So I'm glad that the family did see this weeks before we did, but I still have some comments.
We have, and we asked, and we did the obvious due diligence when we looked into that, and it was pretty clear that this individual was not a part of the investigation as far as a suspect.
And while I do kind of agree with him here, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that he doesn't know something that might be extremely important. I'm going to play this next clip simply because it's something that I mentioned in a previous video. There was a Fox article that came out that gave very graphic details about Kaylee's injuries, and there were some things said in this article that Kaylee's sister later came out and stated was never said by the family. This is where Steve now responds to this article.
There was some rumors that I called these officers cowards. That was for a lawyer that was standing in between what the officers would like to release and what is actually being released. And this was just about coming forward and saying that the profile is a male.
I want to say something that some might consider a little out of pocket, but I'm going to say it anyway. The family seems to be very defensive of Jack, and they have said things in his defense in more than one interview. And even whenever they were talking to Brian Enton later on, and they were talking about how they feel like a lot of people were sort of cleared way too early, they even made it clear then in that statement they didn't mean Jack. And they're very, very defensive of him when it comes to him having anything to do with this. So I'm almost wondering if they're coming at us like this means nothing, because for it to mean something means Jack, because of who this Adam person allegedly is. It's just something that I've been thinking just from their pattern of behavior that we've seen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get into my, speculation thing and, connecting all the stuff. Again, this is just pure speculation. This is just me thinking. This is just me trying to put things together. And like I said, this might literally have nothing to do with anything. So, here we go. We know that Kaylee and Jack were not together at the time that this happened. And we know that Kaylee was graduating, now. She would have been graduating around, the end of the Christmas period. And she had already had all these things lined up for a big move to Texas, right? I know her mom in these interviews that she does talks about how Kaylee was on track to marry Jack. And that always was very strange verbiage to me. It seems as if, and this isn't saying anything bad on the family, this is just me thinking out loud. It seems as if the family really wanted Kaylee to get married to him for some reason. But it seemed as if Kaylee really wanted to move forward and be her own person, have a career of her own, and not be married and live that life. And maybe there was something in the kind of relationship that her and Jack had when they were together to where she felt like she couldn't be that career woman and be in that type of relationship. And it seems like she was doing her own thing, right? So maybe, again, speculation on everything here. Maybe the everything that Maddie is confessing to here, to Kaylee's question, is things that she knows about maybe Jack and Kaylee's relationship that maybe isn't supposed to be out there. And that could be a big reason why the family is kind of defensive about what this could be about. And maybe Kaylee was worried that Adam was going to go back and tell Jack what Maddie said. It could have been an array of things. But it seems like with this conversation, the food truck, them getting home, the time we know that they got home, the time of the phone calls, the times we know that bars normally shut down and people get home from working them, and how long it takes for maybe a drunk to start to come down, it's possible that within that almost, hour-ish time frame, maybe they sobered up enough to realize, dang, we need to call Jack. So maybe whatever Maddie let slip, Kaylee was anxiously trying to get a hold of Jack in order to maybe approach it before Adam had the chance to say something to him. Or maybe, because we don't know if there were calls from Jack's phone to Kaylee. We've only been told from law enforcement's allowance about those 10 calls and those 10 calls only. We don't know if there was text messages in between the phone calls. We don't know if other people were being called. We don't know if Adam had calls and text messages going in and out during this entire thing. We don't. There's very possibly way more to this than just 10 calls to Jack. It's very possible. There's also some speculation in connection to the white Hyundai that is in question. There's a lot of channels that have brought up photos from Google Images and various other places that show a house near the Idaho incident home in which a lot of people believe that Jack D and apparently the Adam guy live. And there is a very similar car that is seen parked out there, and it's been seen at various times, at various angles and various photos. So it's possible, maybe, that something was said to Adam, like we know from this, and there was a big conversation had, or maybe Adam went over there because he was the one that was said something to, and maybe because they couldn't get a hold of Jack, they called Adam. There's a million different possibilities here. We just know Adam lives with Jack. Adam was told something by Maddie that obviously made Kaylee nervous from the way that she asked that question and the tone in Maddie's voice when she answered that question. And that seems like whatever Maddie would have let slip is something that Kaylee would not have wanted Jack to hear. That's just my opinion. Now, if this is related, if this is true, if my speculation has any whatever, I don't know if that would have any relevance to what ended up happening that night. I don't know their personal lives. We don't know their personal lives, but I really doubt that something that would cause him, as the person that he was in her life, to do something like this how it would involve the rest of everyone else, except for by happenstance, like it just happening to happen that way. But I also don't see, by looking at him having the capability of taking out 4 people. I just don't. So I want to know what you guys think about what they could possibly be talking about here. And it's interesting to see that Hoodie Guy was walking around with them for way longer than just popping up with them at the food truck. So it is obvious that they had some sort of rapport with him. It's interesting. Anyways, that's it for now. See y'all.